Hello and welcome, I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories this hour. An air raid alert sounded in Kiev as NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte met President Zelensky, warning Ukraine needs robust security guarantees to ensure Russia never again seizes its territory. The visit comes amid intensified Russian strikes and signs that US-led mediation to end the 3.5-year war is faltering. US media reports the FBI is searching the home of former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton in Maryland. The Bureau confirmed it is conducting authorized activity in the area as police vehicles were spotted outside his residence. A UN-backed food security monitor says famine has been confirmed in Gaza City for the first time. Warning of catastrophic conditions, the integrated food security phase classification has raised the area to phase 5, its highest level, and says the crisis could spread to Deir Al-Balah and Khan Yunis by the end of September. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz says Gaza City will be destroyed unless Hamas disarms and releases all of the hostages, as the cabinet approves a massive assault plan. Hamas has backed a Qatari-Egyptian proposal for a 60-day ceasefire, but Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejects it, insisting on terms acceptable to Israel. Ukraine's military says it hit the Unrestricted oil pumping station on Russia's Druzhba pipeline, a crucial route for Europe-bound supplies, forcing deliveries to Hungary to stop. It comes amid escalating strikes on energy infrastructure, with Kiev targeting Russian refineries to cut war revenues, disrupt exports, and fuel shortages inside Russia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says there is no agenda for a meeting between Presidents Putin and Zelensky, accusing the Ukrainian leader of saying no to everything. He told NBC that Putin is ready to meet if there is a proper framework for talks, but insists such an agenda does not exist for now. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi will hold a joint phone call on Friday with French and British counterparts to discuss nuclear talks and sanctions. The European powers have warned they could trigger UN sanctions under a snapback mechanism if Tehran refuses to negotiations. A Bangkok court has acquitted former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra of insulting the monarchy, a charge that could have brought 15 years in prison over a decade-old interview. The verdict comes as his daughter, suspended Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra, awaits a court ruling that could oust her from office, raising pressure on the Shinawatra family's political legacy. We start this hour in West Asia, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the country is on the verge of completing the war in Gaza, and claims that when it ends, there will be tremendous opportunities to expand peace. His remarks came during an interview on Australian television. Let's listen in to his full statement.
And I think we're on the verge of completing this war, a seven-front war that includes Iran and its proxies. And when that happens, I think we'll have tremendous opportunities to expand the peace. I've said that this war could end today. It can end it if Hamas lays down its arms and releases the remaining 50 hostages, at least 20 of which are alive. And that's our goal, to get all the hostages out, to disarm Hamas, demilitarize Gaza, and give a different future for Gazans. My goal is not to occupy Gaza, it's to free Gaza. Free them from Hamas tyranny, free Israel and others from Hamas terrorism, give Gaza and Israel a different future. And I think we're close to doing it. It'll have to, of course, mean getting the last strongholds of Hamas. They shouldn't be there.
In a related development, the United Nations officially declared a famine in Gaza, blaming what it called Israel's systemic obstruction of aid. The declaration follows a stark warning from Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz, who threatened to destroy Gaza City. With more than 2 million people trapped in the territory, UN officials warn that mass displacement, starvation and civilian casualties will only worsen if aid continues to be restricted. We're now joined by John Rosamando, who's the president of Viking Research Associates and a geopolitical analyst. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, John, for joining us here on NewsX World. Pleasure to have you. I want to start off with the statements that Benjamin Netanyahu has just made. He has said that this war is close to being over. He said that Israel is close to meeting its aims. However, that does not stop the alarm bells being raised by humanitarian organizations all over the world and also foreign governments about this new assault on Gaza City, which is predicted to catastrophically increase the humanitarian disaster in Gaza, which is currently going on. Your thoughts on the statement and the possibility that the Gaza war might end soon, given the approach that the IDF and the Israeli government is taking to this war?
Well, the main Israeli goal now is to neutralize the tunnel network underneath Gaza City. And with Israel set to take the Gaza City, it brings it closer to the end. I mean, Hamas could end the war tomorrow by releasing the hostages, laying down its arms, becoming a political entity, which the Arab League has called on Hamas to do. However, Hamas and Iran want to continue this war. I mean, talk about the humanitarian crisis. I mean, it's based on what Hamas is saying from its health ministry that's being provided to the UN. So there's a lot of foggy questions out there.
Ross, apologies, John, it is a finding that has come from a UN-backed organization. This has said that, and we've all seen the images coming out of the enclave of children starving. We've all seen the aid distribution sites, the chaos of people scrambling to get aid. We've seen the images of starving children. Israel has said that this is fake. What are your thoughts on that? What's your response?
Okay, let's look at the New York Times when it published an image of an emaciated child who had cancer and said that it was because of starvation. You also have videos that haven't made it into the media of Hamas fighters hijacking convoys. I mean, the Israelis haven't gotten directly involved in protecting those convoys because it doesn't want to be accused of, getting caught in the crossfire.
Those are disputed claims, John.
Okay, let's put it this way: where are the statistics that are being used by the UN to justify this coming from? The Gaza Health Ministry that's run by Hamas. The UN employs Hamas fighters. There are at least 30 or so individuals who participated in the October 7th massacre who had UN identity cards. So the United Nations is not a neutral party here. All I have to say is that we don't know what the truth is because we're in the middle of the fog of war. The Israelis have their version. Hamas has its version. The United Nations basically serves Hamas, is biased in favor of Hamas. Just look at Francesca Albanese, the UN reporter on Gaza. She's very pro-Hamas. She said that Hamas was democratically elected. So we're not the United Nations is not an unbiased party here. It is a party to the conflict, and is not shouldn't be should be taken with a grain of salt.
Okay, John, you are staying with us to discuss further updates from the region. We now move on. Foreign ministers from more than 25 countries, including Britain, Australia, and several EU states, have condemned Israel's approval of a major settlement project east of Jerusalem. The so-called E1 project was given final clearance this week and would effectively bisect the West Bank, cutting it from East Jerusalem, land Palestinians seek for a future state. In a joint statement, ministers called the move unacceptable and a violation of international law and urged Israel to reverse its decision immediately. Israel rejected the criticism, insisting that Jews have the historic right to live anywhere in the land of Israel, and dismissed what it called foreign dictates. The E1 project has drawn widespread condemnation, with critics warning it could make a two-state solution impossible. John joins us again to discuss this. John, these settlements are seen as illegal under international law. Allies of Israel have condemned them. Allies of Israel that plan to recognize a Palestinian state next month. It's also been deemed illegal by the United States. Your thoughts on the Israeli government action here and what it might bring for the future of a prospect of a two-state solution?
Well, I think that at this point, we've seen so much of radicalization going on that the Israelis don't want to see a Palestinian state because they worry it'll be another Gaza. But this goes to the other extreme. All it will do is inflame Palestinian extremists to carry out more terror attacks. It'll make any chance for peace further away. But I think we also have to look at the fact that the Palestinians themselves have no interest in a two-state solution. The only interest they have is from the river to the sea belonging to them. So you have a situation where I see no chance for peace.
Okay, John Rossomando, thank you very much. You are staying with us to discuss further updates. Iran and 3 European powers will be resuming the nuclear talks on Tuesday. Reportedly, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi held a phone call with his European counterparts. During the call, Foreign Minister outlined Tehran's position on the so-called snapback mechanism in the 2015 nuclear deal, warning the European powers and the EU against what he called their lack of legal authority to invoke the measure. He cautioned that restoring to such a step would have serious consequences. Araghchi has said that Iran remained committed to diplomacy but would continue to defend its rights and interests. We're once again joined by John Rossomando. John, what are your thoughts on the European stance here, the possibility that they could impose sanctions back on Iran, reverse that nuclear, if they go back on that 2015 deal, and the economic consequences it would have for Tehran?
Well, let's put it this way. The Tehran regime really doesn't care about the starvation of its people. I mean, we're trying to ensure that they don't have the funds to pull ahead with rebuilding their nuclear program, which they've stated that they have every intention of doing. So you have to look at that there.
Yes, indeed. And your current view on the idea that Iran's nuclear facilities might not have been completely destroyed, the murky area of its cooperation with the IAEA. Abbas Araghchi has said that cutting ties completely is not an option. However, there does seem to be some leeway there for some cooperation, however, not as it was before. Your thoughts about the importance of that UN nuclear watchdog still possibly monitoring Iran and its nuclear activities?
Well, I think that the IAEA plays a critical role in terms of keeping Iran honest and keeping its nuclear facilities under inspection. But we've seen Iran evading the IAEA in the past, and its effort to get the IAEA out just shows that its intent on a nuclear weapons program.
Okay, thank you very much, John, for joining us here on NewsX World. We now move over to the United States, where Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell warned in his Jackson Hole speech on Friday that the U.S. economy is in a fragile balance with slowing growth, tariff-driven price pressures, and rising risks to the labor market. Powell described the jobs market as in a curious kind of balance, with labor supply softening in line with speaker demand. He said tighter immigration has sharply slowed labor force growth, and while job gains have eased, the FED wants to avoid creating excess slack. Inflation remains a concern, with July data showing overall PCE at 2.6% and core at 2.9%. Powell noted tariffs are clearly lifting consumer prices, and while the effects could accumulate, his baseline is they will be short-lived. He added the GDP growth has slowed, notably as consumer spending cools, leaving the FED's dual mandate, stable prices and maximum employment, increasingly in tension. The speech comes weeks after President Donald Trump threatened to remove Powell as FED chair, accusing him of holding back growth. We're now joined by Mark Sutherland, who is a geopolitical commentator, and he joins us live from London. Mark, thank you very much for joining us. Mark, do you think that Donald Trump will be pleased to hear what he heard today from the FED chair?
Thomas, good to see you. It's very interesting. It was a very interesting speech. I'm also reflecting on the one that he made in 2019, when the economy of America, you could say, was well into, running like a steam train, and then we went into the COVID era. The other thing is that where things completely were destroyed and slowed down, mum and pop shops all over the place, taken off the market and obliterated. But the other thing is, we're looking at two different personalities. You have a personality, in my opinion, with Trump. It is about taking risk. He passionately believes in America. He wants to get back to the economic boom that was happening in his first administration. And he also has a personality that says, I want to have hold of all the economic levers of power. And if I'm asking you to do something which is hurry up and get interest rates down, then I really want you to get on with this. And to be fair to Powell, in this speech, he's also alluded to the fact that in September he will look at this. The thing is, Trump, in many ways, you could argue the reason why he's got where he is in life is because he takes risks. He sees the Federal Reserve as risky. But as we all know, with our basic understanding of economics, if you completely throw out the monetary supply, you have far too much money out there, like for argument's sake, during the COVID period over here within the UK, where then it's not surprising that inflation then goes up. I think it's going to be a mixed message that the president will be hearing, in my opinion. Thomas.
Yes, and Powell described the jobs market as in a curious kind of balance, with labour supply softening in line with weaker demand. What does this mean?
Well, remember, but there is the tariff wars that are going on, and also, as Trump promised when he came in, he will be dealing with the issue of illegal immigration. That is important to him. As in, if you then take California, you then take other areas like that, you then, but not that they're going to admit it, will be relying on certain groups of people. They would be there illegally as cheap labor to then get the fruit, for argument's sake. Remember, California's GDP until recently, it could have sat at the G7 in its own right. So very, very close to the Mexican border as well. There are companies that would have benefited in the past in regard to illegal immigration. So this is all in the mix, Thomas. Plus, the president is trying to get industry and companies back into America, like you and I have previously discussed when we looked at pharmaceutical companies from Switzerland and other companies to actually open up factories within America. That is happening. That is what Trump wants as well. It's one of the concerns, the reason why I believe, in my own humble opinion, that Jerome is describing this like this is because if it succeeds, there is a change in the economic view because Trump has really pushed forward with these tariffs. And as I said, wants the companies to then set up factories in America, and at the same time is stopping illegal immigration that in the past even Obama made a comment on. Thomas.
Mark Sutherland, thank you very much for your insight and great analysis on that topic. Pleasure to have you as always. We now move over to the Indo-Pacific, where the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Secretary General Nurlan Yermenbekev has said the international organization is expanding into new areas such as artificial intelligence and poverty reduction, while advancing plans for a regional development bank and preparing for a landmark summit in Tianjin. He highlighted the organization's evolution, which now includes cooperation in healthcare, education, trade, and economic investment. A key development is the potential creation of an SCO development bank aimed at supporting small and medium enterprises in member states. Under China's 2025 chairmanship, the bank's progress has accelerated. Looking ahead, Yermenbekev also shared expectations for the landmark SCO summit in Tianjin later this year, focusing on sustainable development, green energy and the digital economy. Nurlan also shared expectations for the upcoming 2025 SCO summit, which will be held from August the 31st to September the 1st, marking the 5th time China has hosted the event. It is expected to be the largest in the organization's history, with more than 20 heads of state and 10 international organizations set to attend.
On the China chairmanship in the SCO, experts of the ministries and banks concerned have intensified their negotiations on this issue. As a Secretariat, we are sure that such an institution would have and will have added value. There is a lot of niche in the sphere of financing and implementing different projects on the SCO territory. We see a possible niche for such an institution to start with not very huge projects, but to be concentrated or be focused first on some middle and small business activities to support small and medium enterprises of our SCO member countries first, and then it will see what projects will be really in demand, and all these activities may be expanded in future. Event of the year, meeting of the heads of state of the SCO will take place in China in the beginning of autumn this year in the city of Tianjin. This year is a year of sustainable development. It is the theme of the year proposed by Chinese chairmanship, and sustainable development will be paid much attention, including ecology, climate change, social economic development, which in turn includes green energy, transportation, connectivity, facilitating of trade and investment, and digital economy.
We're now joined by Andrew K.P. Liang, who's a China strategist, and he joins us live from London. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us. Andrew, for those who don't know, the significance behind the SCO summit.
Well, this is particularly significant in the sense that the SCO has expanded to represent the most important states in the Global South. Don't forget the original SCO is the Central Asian country, together with Russia and China. Now that India and Pakistan have joined, but also representing in a different category called observer members and also dialogue members. They include countries like Saudi Arabia and of course Iran and countries in the Middle Corridor, for example, linking Central Asia to through Turkey to the rest of Europe, including countries like Azerbaijan and Armenia, but also Asian countries like Cambodia, Sri Lanka, and Nepal, and of course including main players in Central Asia and Eurasia, like Turkey and Egypt. So this is a very representative organization of the Global South at the time when the world order has been totally upended, but the value-based system is being trampled upon with huge human rights violations over Gaza. Our original founder and leader of the global order is standing by to watch this going on, with weaker countries being sacrificed and the rules of the jungle representing a more fair and equitable world order. So it's high time for the Global South to stand together, not to form a solid bloc, because there are rivalries and also competition between certain members of the SCO, like India and China and others, but to form a kind of closer partnership to address all the hot button issues you have highlighted in your introduction, like climate change, terrorism, trade, investment. So this is a complete, a timely momentum created by the key players of the Global South to seek closer cooperation and to try to move the world order towards a fairer and more equitable and more peaceful, more prosperous kind of a system.
Andrew KP Leung, thank you very much for giving us that analysis, and thank you for taking the time and joining us. We now move over to Europe for a developing story where the houses in the Spanish northern region of Galicia are engulfed by thick smoke. This comes as wildfire approaches the Oa village despite the favourable forecast. While there were reports of improved weather conditions on Thursday evening, aiding efforts to control the 18 large fires that are still raging in Spain continues. Earlier today, there were reports of residents facing some flames burning vegetation next to the road and some houses leaving vehicles and locals covered by smoke. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has said that an interministerial commission would meet next week to discuss a state pact to battle the climate emergency. Let's in fact listen in to what the Spanish PM had to say.
El martes próximo, antes del Consejo de Ministros, se va a poner en marcha una comisión interministerial de cambio climático, que será la encargada, con la vicepresidenta tercera de Transición Ecológica, de liderar conjuntamente con el Ministerio del Interior, que es responsable de la protección civil, todo lo que representa el camino para lograr ese pacto de Estado que necesita nuestro país vinculado con la emergencia climática.
Well, that's all that we have time for, but we will continue to bring you more news updates from around the world. Thank you.